Hey, thanks for joining us. I'm Blair Best.
And I'm Pat Doris. Welcome to The Story. It's a bittersweet day, my last day here at KGW after 34 years and 7 months.
Pat, you are so respected not only in this newsroom, but in our community and beyond. And while your decades of reporting have been focused on others, tonight we're taking time to celebrate you, your career, and your legacy. Pat Doris.
I'm against all of this.
Pat Doris, he's our big story tonight.
Oh, boy.
I'm Pat Doris. Welcome to The Story.
Welcome to The Story. Welcome to The Story.
I'm Pat Doris. Welcome to The Story.
Wow, well, what a storm that was, huh? Holy smokes.
I've loved stories since I was a little kid. I went to Carroll College in Helena, Montana, discovered I loved writing stories, and then went to Washington State University and graduated there. I was terrified I'd never break into the business, so I took the first job I was offered in Wenatchee. I went from there to Rapid City, South Dakota, then Yakima, then Green Bay, Wisconsin, and finally, in my 5th year of the business, Portland.
Launching a jet off an aircraft carrier is no small task.
Well, Joe and I have been covering my ear because there's been several big cheers here. We'll be up here letting you know how it all goes down.
I just really do love the news business. There's been times throughout my career where maybe I've been a little burned out because I've covered too many riots or too many storms or that sort of thing. But for the most part, day in, day out, I'm totally jazzed to be doing this job, to be telling stories that make a difference in people's lives, that help the community sort of understand what's going on, to kind of let them look at issues in different, shapes and sizes and kind of see the different refractions that the lens can make. It's like magic, and I love that feeling.
Look for stories that you are passionate about, that make you feel something. Because if you feel it, the audience will feel it, and it will give you fuel, and it will sustain you for a long and lasting career. Because stories have such a great power. As I've always said, throughout human history and around the world, people have built stages and theaters just so they can gather around and hear a great story.
And remember, the story, our story, that never ends. Good night.
It's hard for me not to get a little emotional watching that. Pat, you've done so much. What stands out to you? What are the highlights?
Oh, there's a million. I was counting up the other day. I think I've done like 17,000 live shots. I've interviewed more than 200,000 people just in my career here.
Wow.
So it's all been fantastic and wonderful. But things like going on the aircraft carrier with my brother to the Persian Gulf. He was flying fighter jets off the carrier, and I was an embedded reporter. That was amazing. Wow. Being live in our helicopter as the other helicopter crashed or rolled down Mount Hood on a rescue mission, and everybody survived on the helicopter. That was amazing. The floods of '96, running around. I remember it hit at night really bad, and so going down to G.I. Joe's and buying life jackets with my photographer and then running around on people's back decks as the floodwaters were flowing underneath, and we never knew if a deck was going to give out or not, so we were wearing those life jackets.
Wow.
It's a lot of adventures.
And just being out in the field with photogs for so many years, I bet you have some crazy stories.
Most of which I can't tell.
Fair.
We do therapy for each other when we're out on the road on these long drives, and it's unique, as you know, going out with your partner and not knowing what you're going to get into.
Totally.
Sometimes it's happy, easy stories, and sometimes it's dangerous stories. Sometimes it's awful stories, knocking on somebody's door when somebody's died and they don't know you're coming, even though you've tried to let them know. And
the worst day of someone's life, the happiest day of someone's life.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Yep.
Okay, so the team went into our archives downstairs.
Oh, no.
And we found your file.
Oh.
I'll be honest, I didn't even know you had a file.
Me
Look how
neither.
fancy this is. And we pulled out some photos.
Oh, good Lord.
I'm not sure when the last time is you've seen these, but we'll start with these. It looks like some headshots.
Okay. This might have been like the children's parade for Rose Fest. That's what I'm going to guess that is.
All right, so not only did you report for decades, but you also anchored this show for the past few years.
Yeah.
And because we're all about making viewers a part of the show, we wanted to share some of their messages that they sent you for your last day. Take a listen.
We look to you every single day to give us the real deal on our area, and you're leaving. You're leaving us, man. What can we do? Thank you so much for everything, Pat. You're the man. We wish you the best. We hope everything goes well. We'll obviously continue to watch the story. It's such a great show. The whole staff is great, but We'll definitely miss you. We've really, really enjoyed watching you. And I told my wife before, I really think Pat is the most important person in Portland. I really do. That's how I viewed you. Yeah, we'll miss you.
Just wanted to express my thanks for the shows that he's put on. I think he's done really a great job. I know somebody else will probably pick it up, but probably they won't have the sense of humor and journalistic experience that Pat has, and that will be sorely missed. So, Pat, good luck to you.
Oh, that's so nice. Do I have cancer and I don't know it?
Pat, stop. People love you.
That's very kind of them. And Blair's going to do a great job. She's already doing a great job. She really works hard. She's very smart. She gets on the ground, in the street, and gets to the people, and that it makes a great journalist. So you're in good hands without me.
Well, I learned a lot from you.
Oh.
We also got a ton of emails, so many that we actually can't feature them all, but we did want to share a few of our favorites. Catherine and Doug, they said, you embody our hope for smart, ethical people who can help pave the path and lead those of us who yearn for and support the quest for truth, justice, and solutions for problems that hang heavy on our society and environment and threaten our democracy and our very existence. We will miss you. Chuck, he pointed out something that you once told me was one of your favorite parts of the show, the Pivot Award.
Oh, I do like that.
I know you do. One of my favorite episodes, he says, was where he discussed the pivot as a tactic by interviewees to avoid directly answering a question. Excellent examples were shown to demonstrate that tactic. Mo said, I've been watching you on KGW since I moved to Portland in 1993. Fast forward to today, I teach second graders that the most important thing is to be good, to listen, to vote when they turn 18, and to be decent and kind people just like you. Oh. And finally, Joyce says, Pat, you have been terrific. Thank you for your creativity, honesty, and even the occasionally wrong-headed opinions. You will be missed, but you have also raised up a great new generation of reporters. Well done, sir.
Oh.
And honestly, I couldn't agree with Joyce more, just personally speaking. Whew, it's hard to say. I feel like I'm not only saying goodbye to, I didn't think I was going to cry. Yeah. I'm not only saying goodbye to a friend and a colleague, but also a mentor. You have been in my corner since my very first day. I remember my very first talk back on this story. You're always pushing me to think differently, get out of my comfort zone, ask tougher questions. As a young journalist moving here from all the way across the country, you have always supported me. If I didn't know a piece of information or was confused about something, I could always go to your desk. You would help me with open arms. I have truly learned so much. I feel like I have big shoes to fill, but
you'll fill them.
I will miss you.
Your feet are growing all the time.
And I'll also miss our healthy debates that we've had.
Because we don't always agree.
That is true. But I also know that I'm not the only person in this newsroom that will miss you. We want to bring in our executive producer, Colton Weekly, much of the brains and heart of this show.
He's the brilliant one.
He really is.
Yeah.
And we got you 34 roses. Oh my gosh. One for each year of your time at KGW.
That's so nice of you. Thanks, you guys. Oh, this is so awkward and weird and lovely.
Oh, Pat, we love you.
Okay, so you two can't go anywhere for the next 10 years. I hope you know that.
We'll see.
See, watch these two. Oh, that's very nice.
Well, don't go anywhere. As Pat knows, the news never stops.
That's right.
So we do have a few stories for you tonight, and those are coming up right after the break when the story returns. The latest open-air fentanyl market is in Portland's Goose Hollow neighborhood, southwest of downtown. Business owners and residents have been feeling the effects despite Portland police targeting the area for months. Today, I talked with those who live and work in the area, some now taking matters into their own hands. For business owners like Chase Jordan,
show you what where the awnings were.
Dealing with the effects of Portland's fentanyl crisis is a full-time job.
It's sad because, Tercey Soccer has, been around since 1986.
Tercey Soccer is a Goose Hollow staple and longtime family attraction off Southwest 14th Avenue and Taylor Street, right in the middle of the city's latest fentanyl market.
I mean, there's the needles and drug paraphernalia and garbage, food, dog waste. I mean, there's really been everything in this parking lot.
These pictures from the store's security cameras show crowds of people using drugs right outside the front doors.
It would bring a tear to my eye because I'm like, it's crazy that that's at the front of my store at midnight.
Jordan has since replaced the building's exterior awnings with about 10 bright lights.
Yeah, I tried to make it as bright as possible and uninviting.
So far this year, Jordan has spent $17,000 on private security and repairs from vandalism, among other things. And he's not alone.
I don't know what can be done.
At the Legends condominiums a few blocks away,
I do know people in the building feel unsafe.
A fence now surrounds portions of the property and upgraded security is coming next year. Management at another Goose Hollow housing complex sent this letter to residents, encouraging them to adjust their routine to avoid the surrounding blocks between the hours of 6 and 11 at night because of the nearby, quote, open-air drug market.
Well, I think the sweeps downtown have pushed people looking for drugs up into Goose Hollow.
People like Zane.
Try to take shelter anywhere to get out of the weather, and unfortunately you get kicked out all the time.
He carries a garbage bag filled with cans.
About 15, I think, yeah.
$15 worth, enough cash to get him fentanyl to last 2 days, he tells us.
Enough for the rest of the day and tomorrow.
It hurts that it's even happening. It hurts that it has to happen in the city.
Don Porth, a retired firefighter, often removes the aftermath from drug users at this nearly century-old memorial off West Burnside Street and Southwest 18th Avenue.
This bell structure and these trees, the shelter that they provided and the concealment from passersby became the epicenter for a lot of drug trafficking and drug activity.
The David Campbell Memorial, honoring fallen Portland firefighters, is now closed for repairs.
It's a beautiful memorial, but unfortunately a lot of people do a lot of drug usage though. Pretty bad.
The city is asking for donations to help fix it.
This is criminal behavior, this is drug behavior, this is drug trafficking, and it is disruptive to the entire community.
All right, so how is the city of Portland responding to all of this? Well, a spokesperson for the mayor's office tells me their teams are meeting with residents in this area and around the city to find ways they can help. I'm also told Mayor Wheeler is working with the incoming administration to make sure these efforts continue. Meanwhile, Portland police officers are targeting Goose Hollow. A spokesperson for the Bureau tells me the bike squad is aware of the impacts to the neighborhood and are making it a regular part of their missions. Last month, I went with them on one of those missions as they watched for fentanyl dealers from a Southwest Portland rooftop. Now today, police tell me that since September 1st, when drug possession became a crime again in Oregon, officers in Portland have arrested more than 130 people for possession of controlled substances, and 111 people have been deflected. Deflection is that option of treatment over jail for those caught solely with possession and without other warrants. It's unclear how many of those 111 people completed deflection. The Bureau also notes that addiction is a complex problem and the city can't arrest its way out of it. A Portland police spokesperson tells me, quote, there are deep-seated systemic issues that lead to addiction and the associated livability issues that widespread addiction creates. A Multnomah County spokesperson told me about an hour ago that they are, quote, at the table in Goose Hollow to inform their work when it comes to fentanyl and mental health. In fact, they told me Chair Jessica Vega Peterson took a tour of the area this morning to hear from residents. We didn't know she'd be doing that, and unfortunately, I didn't spot her when I was out there this morning. So what do you think about this latest fentanyl hotspot? How about business owners having to make their properties less inviting to homeless folks and drug users? Anything else stand out to you? Let us know. Email the story at kgw.com or call and leave a voicemail at 503-226-5090. All right, now to the state of Washington, where a controversial solution is being used to combat the rise in children accidentally overdosing on drugs. The state is giving parents who use illicit drugs a lockbox to put their drugs in, an effort to keep them away from kids. But as Kristen Goodwillie reports in part 2 of her series, The Cost of Keeping Families Together, child welfare advocates say the lockbox plan is not working.
Well, and here I have the kids' school records.
Danielle Steele of North Bend has spent the last 10 years gathering evidence, trying to prove she should get custody of her 2 nieces and a nephew, while her sister, the kid's mother, goes to treatment. She says records of fractured bones, burns, and long stretches of missed school days show the kids are in danger.
Showing my nephew missing 52.99 days of school. You did it!
Danielle says an incident in the fall should have been the parents' last chance. Court records show her 3-year-old niece overdosed on tranquilizers.
CPS did not take the children away.
No, they did not, because they said that they did not have enough evidence.
While CPS didn't remove the kids from the home, they did give the family a tool aimed at keeping the home safe. A lockbox.
I mean, that is a joke.
The King 5 investigators found early last year, DCYF started giving parents who use drugs like fentanyl lockboxes like this one. And the goal is to keep drugs out of reach so kids don't accidentally eat the pills or powder. But child welfare advocates say that these lockboxes do not account for the highly toxic nature of fentanyl.
That is a true joke, and it's sad. It's so much bigger than that. It's so much bigger than a lockbox.
Even with a lockbox in the home, another crisis happened. 3 weeks ago, Danielle says the kids got their hands on drugs lying around the house.
The kids started getting into it. That's how they found it. And
none of it in a lockbox.
None of it in a lockbox, yeah.
Houses nowadays.
We reported on a law passed in 2021 aimed at keeping more kids with their parents. We found since then more children in the state system are dying. State records show in the last 4 years, the number of kids in foster care has plummeted, down 28%. But deaths and near deaths of children involved with CPS went up by 114%.
It's so much more than just a lockbox.
Do you think that you guys are doing this safely?
Yes.
Doreen Perez is an official with the state agency charged with keeping children safe, DCYF.
We certainly think that this is an opportunity to prevent harm. If it's not being provided, then there's no opportunity. And without that, there's no opportunity to try and keep them safe.
DCYF uses several tools to keep kids safe. Services like offering treatment to parents, housing, childcare, parenting classes, social worker visits, and in the last year, a lockbox. Despite these safety nets, kids have suffered dire consequences.
This one right there, he's just beautiful. He's perfect.
Pamela Andrews of Port Townsend took in baby Otis after he was born last Christmas with fentanyl in his system. The CPS safety plan called for the mom to go into treatment and the father to move in with Pamela.
But I should have done more.
But what could you have done?
Ran away with him.
Otis's father was given a lockbox and required to do a weekly urine analysis, but Pamela says it wasn't enough. State and police records show Pamela called CPS repeatedly about the father using drugs, buying urine to fake drug tests, and muffling the child's mouth when he was crying.
Aren't you supposed to do anything and everything? I mean, to try to save them? I mean, I don't understand where that fine line is for them. Why didn't you do something? Why?
Less than 3 weeks after the state decided the father could get custody of him, Otis was found dead. He was in his car seat, left in a bush on a nature reserve. He had meth in his system. Detectives found drugs and paraphernalia on the father. None of it was in the lockbox.
It's beyond heartbreaking. How can you do that to someone? And he deserves so much more.
King 5 spoke to 24 child welfare advocates who were all surprised these lockboxes are part of a safety plan, especially given the death toll associated with fentanyl. From prosecutors,
their solution to that problem is to provide a lockbox as opposed to taking the kid out of the house. That is shocking.
To social workers,
we can't expect a parent who's actively using multiple times a day to remember to safely store their drugs.
Even a mother in recovery and currently using a lockbox says it would be hard to use while on fentanyl.
But like when it comes to fentanyl, per se, and that type of drugs, and like I would have to say, no, they're not good enough because they aren't always used properly.
I have to get them things because their mom can't get them together.
Danielle Steele, whose niece overdosed on drugs last year, says the kids are still living with the parents. She's constantly worried, even with a lockbox.
Children have rights too. They should have rights. And they should have somebody who's looking after them when the parents are not doing it.
That was Kristen Goodwheely reporting. Now, those lockbox kits cost up to $100, which the state of Washington pays for. Kristen asked DCYF how many of those boxes have been given out. They did not give her a specific number, only saying that it's been a lot. Well, coming up next on The Story, digging into a new KGW investigation into eco-ATM kiosks, which give you cash for cell phones and electronics. Turns out they're being used by criminals to get quick cash after stealing people's devices. What the company and investigators have to say about it when The Story returns. A new KGW investigation exposes how stolen cell phones are being sold for quick cash at your local grocery store or mall. One man tracked his stolen phone to a Beaverton Fred Meyer, where he found it in an eco-ATM. That's a kiosk that gives cash for phones and electronics. There are more than 20 of these kiosks at grocery stores, Walmarts, and malls across the greater Portland, Beaverton, and Vancouver areas. Through public records requests, KGW found 125 eco-ATM ATM-related theft reports here in Portland over the past 5 years, and more than 24 in Beaverton in recent years. Some are tied to active criminal cases. Now, police say those numbers are definitely an undercount, and some detectives were unaware how prevalent this kind of theft is. That is until investigative reporter Evan Watson started asking about it. All right, so Evan joins me now. Evan, talk to me about your reporting process here. How did you hear about this and get to the bottom of it?
Yeah, we've received tips about this before, but it's hard to track down until we talked with the guy, Jaime in this case, who was able to track his stolen phone to one of these Eco ATMs. And that's really interesting because you have the proof there, right? You're going to say, hey, it is here. And then that led us down this rabbit chase here to find how many more cases there have been.
And I'm curious, out of these criminal cases found, how many were drug related? I know from my time on the streets, many people addicted to drugs like fentanyl, they'll do anything they can to get quick cash.
Sure, and it's a good observation. I'd say that it's tough to say when reading through these police reports and the affidavits because they don't say the outcome of why these people are getting cash, just that they may show up and have a false ID or a real ID or whatever it may be and get through the security system. So I can't exactly answer that question for you, but definitely you are connecting the dots here.
And if you would like to watch Evan's full story, you can find it over on our streaming app, KGW+. You can download it for free right now on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. Well, that is the end of our show, folks. Thanks for watching. And as a tribute to Pat on his final day, remember, the story, our story, that never ends. See you tomorrow.